to another amazing, fantastic edition of the Slammer Bros podcast. This is the one. This next like eight to 10 episodes, when we go into who is the best Intercontinental Champion of all time, this is basically what takes up a lot of my day. Basically, it takes up a lot of brain space because, as we say in every freaking show, the Intercontinental Championship, in addition to being the working man's title, it was also the most beautiful belt ever assembled by man. And Steve just happens to be holding it right now. Steve, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I've been waiting for this day for so long, and now we finally get to do it. Plus, big pay-per-view coming up, so we get to talk about that, and it's just good to be talking with you again, brother. It's been a couple days.
It has been a couple days. You have had some new life-changing moments. You moved out of state. You're in a different location right now that does not look green screened. You got your Macho Man Randy Savage tank top on. Yep.
I'm not trying to skew. I'm not trying to influence the competition. The Macho Man will win fair and square. However, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, so for those of you who did not catch the last podcast, we did a tiered list of all of the Intercontinental Champions, all 87 of them, and 64 of them made the list. That way we could do this tournament style. We had them all in various tiers, and then based off those tiers, we came up with seeding for everybody, right? So if you guys know anything about sports, usually the first seed team in the opening round plays the worst team, because, you know, if you seed it high enough, you've earned the right to kind of skate your way into the finals, which is the whole purpose of, which makes the regular season way more important when it comes to sports. So we copied the same formula, the same spirit. So Steve, you and I are both going to judge each Intercontinental Champion. You and I both have 3 check boxes on our list that we are going to judge as a criteria to be fair. This is not going into what we felt about a wrestler as a whole. This is how we felt about them and their significance to the Intercontinental Championship. So Steve, what is your judging criteria for today?
Well, I think for me, it's a matter of, I think you said it best, is how do you relate to the title? What was your significance to it? How did it propel you afterwards? Or, as we talked about when we whittled down the list of 87 to 64, around 2000, what it was used for seemed to transition, where before it was used to elevate, it kind of transitioned into something that was more storyline based, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, it's what did you do in your reign as champion? The numbers don't really matter to me. Like if you held it 6 times, okay.
Yeah.
But it's really just what's your significance to the title? What did you do as champion? And then what did you do afterwards? Did it actually propel you into something? And as we're going to see in a couple of these matches, in some cases, it took the person a decade to actually elevate beyond that level. So it'll be an interesting conversation, but I'm looking forward to having having that conversation, rating each one of these, and then seeing, based on our very scientific methodology here, who will move on in the tournament.
You know what? I agree with your judging criteria. I'm going to go with mine. Give people what I'm going to be judging at home. For me, it's how did you win it? Was it an epic, classic match that we all keep talking about, and then the belt, which automatically elevates a belt when there's like a good match that dictates who wins it. Secondly, it's what did you do for the Intercontinental Championship? Are you synonymous with the belt, or are you just somebody who held the belt as something to do, or held the championship, I should say, as something to do? And then the third one is, what was your reign as champion? Like, were you a dominating champion, defending champion, or were you somebody who was like, hey, let's, like the Attitude Era was very synonymous with this, where it would just be like, hey, One guy has the belt for about 30 days. Okay, let's give the title to somebody else. That way they can get elevated as well. So that's what we are going to be going into as some aficionados. Steve, I should say, Steve Slammer, are you ready for round one, which is Macho Man Randy Savage, who holds the first seed, versus the 64th seed, Ric Flair? Are you ready?
Oh, I've been waiting for this for years, man. I am ready. Let's do this.
All right,
Let's
perfect.
do it.
So, Macho Man Randy Savage, how he won the belt was in a WrestleMania 3 match versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, a match to this day. What's up?
You got that backwards. He lost it to Steamboat at WrestleMania 3.
He lost it to Steamboat, yep.
He won it from Tito Santana kind of shadily at the Boston Garden in 85. So how he won it was kind of but I'll send it back to you. I just wanted to make sure to correct that.
Yeah. Okay, well, what he did for the belt as champion was pretty significant. Then even how he lost it, which is what I meant, against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, completely put Ricky over. It was, to this day, it's the best match you'll ever see. Total, and chain wrestling, good chain wrestling all around. Great, a lot of false counts everywhere. Amazing match. As the champion, had a great reign, and then afterwards, he became the World Wrestling Federation champion not too long after he won it. Basically, as soon as he lost it, he cuts that amazing promo. Nothing means nothing, man. Nothing means nothing. And then starts his feud into the championship. Back in the day, we would have a nice, long, logical storyline to get us from A to B. So that was Macho Man on my side. So he, in my opinion, is going to be a very tough guy to beat, and I really don't think Ric Flair is the guy to topple him in this sense as the IC champion. Cut me off where I'm wrong here. He was part of Evolution when he had won the Intercontinental Championship, correct?
No, I think it was actually later. It was towards the end as he eventually got to a point where he was doing those career-threatening matches, which ended up leading up to the retirement match at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels. But he had a very short reign as the Intercontinental Champion. It didn't really mean much in the context of the title. I think it was more about giving him something to do. He was late in his career. It was another little accolade for him to have. But in terms of, it was so late in his career, it wasn't a particularly memorable run. I think a lot of people don't even remember that he held it. Right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Macho Man who, I think second or third longest reign. It was over 400 days. Really good matches when he was the champion, and it was certainly the setup for him to move on and become the world champion at WrestleMania 4. So I think when you're talking about that, again, his significance to the title, the match quality, how he won it notwithstanding, but he was a heel at the time, so that that's what he's going to do. And then the interesting dynamic that they always had between him and Elizabeth, where he was a heel, but Elizabeth was always very popular. So again, I agree with you. He's going to be hard to beat, and it's certainly not going to be by Ric Flair in the first round. So for me, the Macho Man absolutely must move on.
Oh yeah, Macho Man. Yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage, the guy who is front and center in my Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. Macho Man Randy Savage easily takes this round against the great Ric Flair. But Ric Flair will be known for many things, just not carrying the belt. And Steve, could you do... Oh, you've done a quick sound test. We hear you. Okay, good. Oh, yeah. All right, so the next match on the list, and then do you want to be the one who edits the tournament as we go on?
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Cool. Okay. I think that's going to be an easy one to remember. We have The Miz, who is the 32nd seed, versus CM Punk. Now, this was one of the ones that you told me could be very, very interesting because we're not talking about their careers as a whole. We're talking about their careers as an IC champion. So how would you break down The Miz versus CM Punk?
Yeah, so for me, and I think we may actually end up disagreeing on this one, but the Miz has lived at that Intercontinental title level for a long time. He was the world champion, then he went on and held the Intercontinental champion, I think 8 times is
Yeah.
his total. Um, it, to me, he's more synonymous with the belt than CM Punk. CM Punk's title reign, it happened, but eventually he moved on, and then he's been at that world title level the whole time. So in terms of how you're looking at it, I don't necessarily see that the Intercontinental title did something for CM Punk to move him into that level, because before that he was the ECW champion, for
Mm-hmm.
example. So, for me, when it comes to this, and again, it's not about who's better, because I think we would all agree that Punk is the better wrestler.
Yeah.
But in terms of the relevance to the Intercontinental title, I'm afraid I have to give the nod to the Miz.
You know what? I sincerely here, and we're actually not gonna disagree, because this was the one that had me thinking back and forth, ping pong balling back and forth here. Well, let's be honest. CM Punk goes away. Both those guys go away for 7 years. Both come back. CM Punk had people crying. Now, me, since I'm a huge Miz fan, I would be going, yeah, I would be all about it. I'd be having a great time in the crowd. But I don't know if it would bring me to tears, right? I know I would enjoy having him back. I think it'd be
Sure.
I'd be cool. But I think CM Punk, when it's all said and done, will have the more significant career altogether, pound for pound. But as the Intercontinental Champion, I have to go with the Miz, and I have to agree with you. He's more synonymous with that level, with that belt, and he's kind of he's. You know what? He was a great Intercontinental Champion, more synonymous with the belt than CM Punk. So that means the next round, which we're not going into today, we are going to have a matchup in the second round versus Macho Man and The Miz. So that's going to be the next one we're going to have to consider. I wonder who takes that one.
Well, that one's going to be more interesting than you think, I think.
I think so. I do think so. I think there's going to come a point where if we really go through Macho Man, eventually we're going to, we're going to have some tough decisions in this side of the bracket coming up for us. So.
Oh, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about this format is that it may cause us to have to make a decision between two people,
Yep.
two wrestlers, maybe earlier than we would have expected, and maybe somebody, gets eliminated earlier on in a tournament, and then that obviously impacts the decision making later on. So it's an interesting exercise, because it would be easy to just say, well, it's Macho Man or it's Bret Hart or somebody like that and move on. But in this case, I think that this structure really is going to make it interesting. I think a lot of the first round matches, much like in the NCAA tournament,
Yep.
March Madness, there's very few upsets.
Yeah.
There's usually one or two. We may actually have one of those in this round, but we'll see. But I think generally the first round is going to be pretty predictable. But I can already tell you, looking at some of these potential second round matches, or at least how I have it rated, we'll see if we disagree. I think there's going to be a couple interesting ones. Some hard decisions are going to have to be made very soon.
Very, very soon. Okay, the next match for us is going to be Chris Benoit, who holds the 17th seed on our list, versus Greg the Hammer Valentine, who is the 48th on our list. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Chris Benoit wins this one for me, hands down, no questions asked.
So for me, I actually, the more I thought about it, because again, for me, it's about synonymous with the title, right?
Yep.
And obviously Benoit went on and became the world champion, right? For me, it's actually Greg Valentine, and I actually had this as my first upset of the tournament. He held it twice.
Okay.
It was in the early '80s. He traded it back and forth with Tito Santana a few times, and you can make the argument that he didn't go on to become the world champion, but he had long title runs, and there's just a general feeling for me. I think his synonymity, if you can use that word, to the Intercontinental title for me is actually stronger than it is for Chris Benoit.
You know what? I could be convinced otherwise. So, you know what? You
Man,
make some.
that wasn't even my best sell job. You started off by saying hands down Benoit, and then I throw some words at you, and you're like, I could deal with that.
Well, here's the thing though with Benoit. What made me go there is he had a way more significant career afterwards, utilizing the title for the purpose of, hey, this is going to springboard you to the upper card once you had a decent run. Um, so I said I could be convinced otherwise. Okay, let's look at some of the numbers. Greg
Well,
Valent.
that's what's pulling up right now.
Okay, what was Benoit's reign as the champion?
Well, I'm getting there. Hang on.
Okay, I'll wait. So for me, as I said, if Greg Valentine's reign was significantly better than Benoit's, because he traded with Santino, and that was when it was still a relatively new championship, right?
Yeah, that was early '80s.
It was early '80s. He was going through the building pattern. Okay, if
So
if his title reign was significantly longer than Benoit's, I could be convinced. What do you got?
so here's what I'm going to tell you. So, excuse me. So let's start with Benoit, because I actually think that's going to be the easier one to do.
Yeah.
Benoit held it 4 times. So there is that.
Yeah.
His combined reign, so if you added up all of his reigns,
Yep.
they only add up to 142 days.
So 142 days, holding it 4 times. So
It's about a month average each reign.
so that means that his championship reigns were more as something to do. So it's like, hey, here's the belt for the title, excuse me, for the sake of having the title.
Well, and don't forget, right? I mean, that was when the transition occurred. There was more storyline happening around the title as opposed to the elevation that happened in the 80s and 90s. Greg Valentine, and I actually misspoke. I said he had it twice. He held it once, 285 days.
Okay. So Greg Valentine held it longer. It was more of the early days where he was a pioneer to the championship.
Yeah, and they weren't flipping the title around a lot back then either, so there was that.
They moved championships around way more slowly back then. All right, so we got one title reign versus 4, but his one title reign was significantly longer, and it was at an era where they were building up the championship itself.
Yeah, and I'm also pulling up here just so we have this for the discussion, and then we can figure this out here. But Benoit first won it from Kurt Angle.
Okay.
Then lost it to Jericho, won it back from Jericho, then lost it to Rikishi.
Got it.
He ended up winning it back from Mr. Ass.
Yep.
Gun. Lost it to Jericho again. And then his last reign with it, he won it from Rob Van Dam. And then the title was returned to Raw. Oh, and then he didn't even really lose it. It was just back when they did the first brand split.
Okay, so
transition back to Rob Van Dam. So Benoit didn't really do a whole lot with it.
okay. You know what? I will concede here. We'll go with Greg Valentine. We will go with Greg Valentine. Oh yeah! All right, so first upset. This is
tournament.
This is an upset because Chris Benoit was at that A level that we had.
Sure.
He was at the top of the A level. Greg Valentine was in the tournament, but he was we knew he was going to be lower seed, so it's going to get very, very interesting, very, very quick. So, all right, let's move on to the next matchup. Chris Jericho versus Chyna. Okay, so I will say that Chyna was the first and probably the last woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's the only one. Yeah.
She's the only woman to ever hold it. That was during a time when she was freaking white hot in her career. Um, but after she won it, then she only won it one time, correct?
Well, she won it once, and then she had like a split weird title reign with who?
Who did she have the split title reign with? I forgot off the top of my
I
head.
think it was. I believe it was Jericho.
It was. Oh, was it? Oh goodness.
Pulling it up. Hang on.
Pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up.
Yep. Chris Jericho and China.
So they split the championship reign.
Yep.
That's
So it ended in a match between China and Jericho ended in a double pin, and they were recognized as co-champions.
oh interesting. And then how did they lose it? Was it like a triple threat match, and then they had to lose it that way?
No,
Or?
no. Then they had a triple threat between China and Hardcore Bob Holly
Yeah.
that Jericho won at the Royal Rumble.
Okay. Got it. So her because China's not synonymous with the IC title. It's a really badass achievement that she had made. She's seated 49th. Jericho's seated 16th. Um, Jericho used that IC belt run to catapult himself to being the undisputed champion, which he had a great freaking story about eating cold pizza the night that he won his championship belt, which I thought was
Yeah, that's a great
freaking,
one.
that's a fantastic story. Um, yeah, as much as I like China, as much as I feel like she was a pioneer for what she did and who she was, I would probably lean towards Jericho on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he held it 9 times, and he ended up becoming the first undisputed champion. So for me, that's going to trump a lot of things.
Yeah.
So for me, this one was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, you know, for all the trailblazing comments you can make about what China did, and I certainly have my opinions that it was more of a novelty act. But you know, regardless of all that, she's up against Jericho, and
That's a tough act to beat.
that's a tough round one draw. So for me, it's I'm with you. It's Mr. Y2J or the Painmaker or whatever he is this week.
Very interestingly enough, you know who he beat to get the championship, right? The undisputed belts. He won a triple threat versus Rock and Steve Austin. So I mean, if
Well,
that's
it wasn't a triple threat. It was actually a 4-man tournament where they had The Rock versus was it Kurt Angle? It was somebody for the WCW title,
yeah,
and then he beat Steve Austin, Chris Jericho versus Steve Austin for the WWF title, and then he beat The Rock in the final.
yeah,
And
that's
then
right. That
yeah,
is correct. So getting to beat Steve Austin and The Rock on the same night to become the first Intercontinental Champion, that's freaking huge. So yeah, we can both fairly say that that belt elevated him to new heights. So Chris Jericho defeats China. All right, next on the list, and I'm going to defer to you a little bit on this one because I love Kofi Kingston, but I really wasn't present. That was kind of let's just call it the days when I just sort of tuned out WWE because it was a monopoly and I just lost a little bit of interest in it. We have Triple H, the ninth seed, versus Kofi Kingston, the 56th seed. Since I've never heard anything really too memorable about Kingston's run, and we all know what Triple H's Intercontinental Championship run was and how he put over Rock a few times. He had some great feuds with Rock, starting from early in their career, going all the way up to the championship belt run. Those guys both elevated each other as they went along. So, yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. I got to give it to Triple H.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this, much like the China conversation, I think this is another one where you work backwards. So you know, you can talk about, you know, Kofi's runs, and when we did the initial seeding, we talked about the fact that, you know, most of his runs were like in the 70 to 90 day range, and then eventually he ended up becoming the world champion, but it was years after. I mean, he first won the title in the Intercontinental title in '08, I think I said, and then he, you know, obviously at WrestleMania 35, you know, he became the world champion. And on the other side, you got Triple H, who, you know, like you said, he had those epic battles at the Intercontinental title level that carried over to the world title level. He ended up becoming, the 14-time world champion, right?
Yeah.
So I think here's another one where you can make an argument for the merits of Kofi, but when you put him up against Triple H, it's really not much of a contest at this point.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm in agreement. I think Triple H moves on.
Awesome. We are moving right along here. This is an interesting matchup. We have Mr. Rob Van Dam versus AJ Styles, who has another badass entrance I love with the hoodie and shaking it out.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I love both these guys. Both of their IC title runs are a bit of a blur for me, though. But what I do know is Rob Van Dam did elevate himself into stardom status, and that was like a really good IC title run because he was huge in ECW, but when he was introduced to WWE, this was like the first time I was introduced to him as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Then he won the IC championship. He started selling like merch like crazy. I actually own, still to this day, it's at in my Idaho house, the Foam Thumbs, baby. Rob Van Dam, I own those. They're back home in Idaho, or back old house in Idaho. So with that, launches himself to superstardom status. But then you got a guy like AJ Styles who kind of has a similar career in many ways. He was a big deal in TNA, was a homegrown TNA guy, goes to WWE, becomes a superstar in that company as well. But in your opinion, which of these guys had the better run as the IC champion?
Well, so for me, it's Rob Van Dam. So, Styles' run with the Intercontinental title actually came after his runs as world champion.
Oh, got it.
And they were, in my opinion, they were just things for him to do. Whereas on the other side, you have Rob Van Dam, who was having really good Intercontinental title matches at WrestleMania, WrestleMania 17. And then eventually, I think it was, that transition from ECW over to the WWF at the time, the quality of the matches that he was having, the fact that he was able to have those good title matches that I think eventually gave them the confidence for him to become the Money in the Bank winner and then have, become the world champion. Now, obviously, he couldn't lay off the stuff, which I'm kneecapping him. But I think when you're talking about comparing them to the title, for me, Rob Van Dam is far more synonymous with the Intercontinental title than AJ Styles.
Awesome. All right, I'm in agreement with you. I'm a huge AJ Styles fan, but I gotta go with Rob Van Dam as well. So no upset there. The 24th seed defeats the 41st seed. All right, next on the list we have the Honky Tonk Man at 25 versus Finn Balor at 20. Now, what I remember is with Honky Tonk Man as the IC champion, I remember he held the belt for a while, and then I remember how he lost it very memorably to the Ultimate Warrior when he posed an open challenge. Crowd goes freaking nuts as he comes out. Ultimate Warrior beats him in about less than a minute, or less than 90 seconds, I should say. And then, his reign was probably defined more with how he lost it and his long reign. Now, I missed out on the Finn Balor IC title reign. What was that like?
It wasn't anything really to write home about. Again, much like Styles, it was something that he was doing after he would already become the first Universal Champion. And then obviously before they sent him back down to NXT. So, Honky Tonk Man actually is going to be a very tough out in this tournament. And it's not because he's the longest single reigning champion. But when you think about his reign, and he wins it cheap, he beats the Dragon right after the Dragon, just 2 months after the Dragon had won it at WrestleMania 3. And then he has that really long title reign where he's just drawing heat left and right, and the people just want to see him get his ass beat, right? And then eventually he does get his ass beat.
Oh, yes, he does.
He pulls him. You can make an argument that setup right there is what ended up being the catapult that sent the Warrior on to the career that he had. So when you think about the Intercontinental title as a stepping stone, I mean, how do you do it better than they did it with the Honky Tonk Man, really?
I 100% agree with you. And, you and I talk about Roman Reigns at this juncture of his career as the Universal Champion, where he's holding
Very
the
simple.
belt so long, where he's kind of got that smug attitude towards him. But I feel like Roman is way more over than the Honky Tonk Man was, because he's like that
Well,
charismatic heel. But to your point, like, Honky Tonk Man put himself to a point where it meant something to beat him. People wanted to see him lose, and then the guy who did beat him became the highest selling draw within the company for a long period of time, and it was a very satisfying ending. So it was a great run, great ending, and then it catapulted one of the most popular wrestlers in the world at that time, and he's still one of the most talked about wrestlers to this day. So
absolutely.
I have to give it to Honky Tonk Man. Is there anything else you would like to weigh in on here, sir?
I think you said it right.
Thank you very much. All right. Honky Tonk wins it. This next one, it's a heartbreaker for me,
Yeah.
because we know who's gonna win. We have The Rock at the A seed versus Luke Harper, who I loved in WWE, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a great character. Him and the was it the Swamp People type thing with Bray Wyatt?
The Wyatt family.
The
Yeah.
Wyatt family, dude. The Wyatt family was freaking awesome all the way around. Love Luke Harper in it. But The Rock, let's be real here. If you want to talk about the IC championship as a catapult, not only did he take that belt to new heights, but he broke the fourth wall in ways that Hulk Hogan, who broke the fourth wall in a spectacular way, like, even he couldn't have dreamed of hitting those heights. Like, The Rock is now like the highest paid actor of all time. So if you want to talk about a belt catapulting you, even though the dude radiated freaking personality and didn't really need the title at the time, he wasn't quite The Rock yet when he first won it against Triple H. He was still Rocky Maivia, right?
Yep. Yep.
He was still Rocky Maivia. Definitely catapulted him, created one of the most underrated rivalries of all time with him and Triple H that carried throughout all their careers. And, like, later on, they both even said that feud is what kept them both going, because the other one always wanted to outshine the other one. And because of that, we have NXT and we have the biggest action star in the world. So I have to give that to The Rock, even though I have to also say, love Luke Harper. I just think The Rock's IC title run was just more significant.
Well, I totally agree, and I think you can make the argument that in the transition of The Rock's career, that the Intercontinental title was absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Because they throw it on him very early. The fans reject him, and then when he comes back and he becomes The Rock, what's the first thing he does? He comes out and he wants Austin and the Intercontinental title, right? So
Yep.
then the matches that he had with Austin at that level end up translating into 3 WrestleMania main events for the world title. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, this is an easy one, but The Rock is another one where it's going to be tough when we get further in.
It's going to be very tough to beat him. So let's do a quick recap on our decisions so far. So in round 1 of our first 8 matches, we have Macho Man defeating Ric Flair, which was to no surprise. We have The Miz defeating CM Punk, which is probably going to be very controversial. We have the biggest upset of the tournament so far, Greg the Hammer Valentine beating Chris Benoit. Chris Jericho defeats Chyna. Triple H defeats Kofi Kingston. Rob Van Dam beats AJ Styles. Honky Tonk Man defeats Finn Balor, and Seductive Steel does not like that one at all, not one bit. I mean, listen, if we were talking best abs of all time, then Finn Balor would definitely be in the hall. Well, he'd have some trouble with Rick Rude, but, best abs.
That is true.
Then Orton had some good abs back in the day, but we're not talking about ab muscles right now. All right, and then finally we have The Rock beating the late great Luke Harper.
So speaking of tough second round matchups, that sets up a clash between The Rock and the Honky Tonk Man.
Luckily we have another four mini brackets before we have to come to that one.
So no matter how it plays out, you're gonna have one person who is gonna make anyone's top 10 list out in the round of 32.
Yeah, I know, dude. This is a wild tournament already.
That's why this format is so great.
Exactly. And when we first did the bracketing to this, did you think for 1 second we'd have Greg Valentine beating Chris Benoit when we were first doing the seeding for this?
No, I needed to think about that one, actually.
Yeah. But anyways, that was an upset, and when you're forced to challenge yourself within the parameters that you set for yourself for your judging, things can change very quickly.
Well, apparently Seductive Steel feels that the bigger upset was the Honky Tonk Man making it out of the first round. So,
yes, very much so. Well, I think he just wanted Finn Balor's abs to make it to the second round, but that's here nor there. I hope I look that shredded at 44.
Was Finn Balor the Demon?
Finn Balor was he the Demon at the time?
Nah.
No, because he hasn't lost.
I'm setting up the conversation that we're gonna have next, but.
Oh well, the next conversation we need to have is we are gonna go into our Extreme Rules predictions, and keep in mind this is not who we. In my case, I often go with who I want to win, but Steve is Mr. Vegas. He always goes with the odds. He always kicks my ass at these predictions. So we're going to go into the Extreme Rules predictions. Let me pull up the entire card just a moment.
So I'm 17-3 all time right now?
17-3 all time right now. Because you go based off of your brain and my dumb ass goes based on my heart and I'm still that young man who just wants the world to just bleed rainbows, okay? It just doesn't happen that way. All right.
You're the young man who thinks that the 1-2-3 kid is going to beat Bret Hart for the world title on Raw. I gotcha.
Dude, yes, I was. And you know what? I love the 1-2-3 kid. And
I was that way too.
Exactly. All right, so I'm looking just for the card itself. Would I go to the WWE website for that?
You can. I mean, I have it right here.
All right, cool. You know what? We're gonna do some role reversals. Why don't you go from the bottom of the card up and introduce the matches, and we'll go from there.
So you want to start at the bottom and then go to the main event?
Yeah, bottom and then go to the main event, baby. Just like we're watching that in Vegas.
So here's the thing about the card. As of right now, and the card and Extreme Rules is this Sunday. There are only 6 announced matches.
Only 6 announced matches, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Of those 6 announced matches, well, be honest, is this like a throwaway event for them, where it's just like, hey, let's just try to make some money?
Yeah, it's their B-level type of show, yeah.
So, okay, so that's gonna dictate a lot of my predictions here, but
Well, so the other thing to keep in mind, though, is what's next month?
Next month is the Crown Royal.
You got Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, but the next big show in November is Survivor Series, where they do the champion versus champion matches.
Yep, that is correct.
That's something to keep in mind as well, because you got to think the outcomes of these are going to set up the matches at Survivor Series as well. So that actually weighed into some of my predictions.
All right, so without further ado, Without further ado, I would like to hear what the first match is of the ones that are announced, and then we'll go into our prediction.
So, in a absolute clash of the titans that the world is absolutely standing by with bated breath to watch, Carmella will take on Liv Morgan.
Carmella versus Liv Morgan. Is I don't give a rat's ass a fucking. Let's see. Oh wait, is Carmella? She's like the old. Oh, I know her. Okay, she's the ultra cute one who like that's her whole spiel. She goes, I'm the cutest girl on the planet, right? Like
I'm the most beautiful woman in the world, or something like that. Yeah.
SummerSlam. She's the one who Becky Lynch buried before burying Bianca Belair. Okay.
Yes.
And then we have Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan.
Used
to be in the Riot Squad.
Used to be in the Riot Squad. So is this kind of just to get people their counter for Ruby Soho going to AEW, you think?
No, I think, well, I mean, so if I get into excuse me, my prediction here, I think they need more talent in the for who's challenging for these women's titles.
Yeah.
You have two heel champions right now. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for Carmella to get elevated at this point, although you could make an argument based on the way that she was discarded so quickly at SummerSlam. But I think for me here, the prediction that I have is Liv Morgan. I think it has to be. I mean, they need to start elevating some baby faces to actually be legitimate threats to some of these heel champions. So I'm going with Liv Morgan.
You're going Liv Morgan. I'm actually going to piggyback off of you here because I think Carmella's spot on the card is pretty much like established as to what she's going to be. Like, I don't see her winning the championship, but I do see her as somebody who's already in the picture, somebody who, with how her persona and character is carried, she really doesn't need to win very many matches, but because of who she is and her aesthetics, I'm sure people would still watch the match just fine. So
sure.
I'm going to piggyback with you, Liv Morgan. I'm in.
All right. So next up, in a triple threat for the United States Championship, it'll be Damian Priest defending against Sheamus and Jeff Hardy.
Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. Okay, so first off, I think these guys need to go again at a pay-per-view because where they were put on the card last time did them no justice to the point where you and I were in the crowd and we had to like work extra hard to get the people around us into it because I'm a huge fan of Damian Priest. He's a guy they're pushing. I don't see Hardy winning it. And then I think Sheamus, they're probably going to try to move him back into the title picture, into the World Championship picture. I actually think Jeff's probably into this match just so he can be the guy to get pinned, and I think Damian Priest is going to be the guy to pin him.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, when they added him, it became even clearer to me that they're clearly pushing Priest. I think they're looking to not continue to have Sheamus take losses. I think Jeff Hardy's in there strictly to take Priest finish and move on from this. So I think this one's pretty straightforward. Priest retains, and
he's gonna pin Jeff Hardy to retain it. And I think it's gonna be a great match. Either way, it's gonna be a fantastic match.
All right. Well, next up is for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship with the Usos defending against the Street Profits.
This one's actually a little bit harder to call than I would think. So if they were gonna do like a clean sweep of the freaking of the family, the tribe, right, of the family, it would make sense for them to lose, but I just feel like the Usos are just too hot of a tag team, too much over next to them. I love the Street Profits, definitely a solid tag team, but I think right now, similar to how Roman Reigns has kind of cemented himself as the Universal Champion until there is another guy they really want to elevate, I don't see the Usos losing, so I'm gonna go with Usos on this.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I agree with what you said in that I think that the fortunes of the Usos are tied to Roman and the Bloodline. I think the Bloodline's too hot right now.
Yeah.
And again, when you look at potential Survivor Series matches, because the two tag team champions are going to face each other, does it make more sense if you're going to have Who does it make more sense to have taking on Riddle and Randy Orton, the Street Profits or the Usos?
Oh, the Usos, because then
The
you
Usos.
have the two hottest
So,
tag teams in wrestling right now
yeah, so
going against each other.
you put those two things together, and I think it spells victory for the Usos. I agree. I think the Usos retain.
Usos retain. All right, let's go to the next
We are
belt.
lockstep so far,
We
including in the bonus prediction for Jeff Hardy taking the pin. Look at
we
this.
are in we are in lockstep. I mean, okay, actually, I'm gonna go bonus with the Usos. That's my lock of the night. My lock of the night
Oh,
is the Usos retain.
well, my lock of the night is coming up next because for the SmackDown Women's Championship, it'll be Becky Lynch taking on Bianca Belair.
Yeah. Oh, damn. This should have been my lock of the night. Becky
Yeah.
Lynch is gonna beat her again. Like,
Yeah.
I love Bianca Belair. She's awesome. I feel like she deserved to lose the belt in a way more dignified manner. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, Becky's like white hot right now. She it Bianca beating Becky does not do the same for the company that Becky does retaining the belt. I don't think they dragged her out of retirement to just have her, win it for a bit, then to just immediately lose it. So Becky Lynch wins, and I think she wins decisively.
Well, I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think Belair will be booked to be more competitive this time around. But I mean, it was time for Belair to drop the title at SummerSlam anyway. If you remember, that was my prediction with Banks, when she was originally supposed to take on Banks. Lynch is back. She's a heel now. There's no way she's dropping the belt here. So, I mean, we could continue analyzing this one, but in my mind, like I said, this is my lock of the night. It's about as straightforward as it gets. Belair will be a little competitive, but Lynch will be defeating her decisively.
Agreed. All right, next match on the list.
Now it starts to get interesting because for the Raw Women's Championship, we have Charlotte Flair taking on Alexa Bliss.
This is tough. This
Mm.
is tough because it's not. Damn, this is fucking tough for me. Okay. I just based on the fact that Charlotte's kind of always been cool with dropping the belt because she gets it back immediately within a couple months after anyways. I'm going to go Alexa Bliss here.
See, this one is I think is going to be the toughest one, and then I'm going to tell you how I arrived at my eventual decision here. But first, I start off with the mindset of they can't possibly switch this belt again
Yeah.
because they had Charlotte beat Ripley, then she drops it to Nikki, then she wins it right back from Nikki. Now it's a month later. Is she really going to drop it again? But they seem hell bent on getting her world title counts up.
Yeah.
So I could see an argument for that. I appreciate the fact that they're moving away from that, spooky lady fiend bullshit, and they're actually like they actually had a back and forth, which I found refreshing, and that they were talking about it being head games and
Yeah.
Charlotte not doing the stupid hypnosis nonsense.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, though, and that's for that reason. That's why I was kind of leaning towards Bliss. Plus, right now we have every champion retaining.
Yep.
Usually there's at least one belt that's swapping.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you got Survivor Series next month. And if Lynch is retaining, which again, that's my lock of the night, do you want Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch at Survivor Series, or do you want Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch at Survivor Series?
The second one probably has the more marquee value to it.
So I have Flair retaining, and I think I could easily be proven wrong on this one, but I'm going to differ from you. This is where we're going to deviate, and we're going to see who's going to come out on top in these predictions. But I have Flair retaining.
You know what? I'm still gonna stick with Alexa Bliss, only because it feels like they've done so much to get her over in various areas. I'm like, okay, they put the title on Nikki Ash for an entire month before giving it back to Charlotte. I don't think it's in this situation because it's not like Charlotte Flair is the female Roman Reigns. I could totally see them giving it to Bliss, but I could see you being correct for what you just outlined right there. So
And I was leaning towards Bliss. I mean, they're clearly committed to this act,
Yep.
right? Because I've crapped all over it. I know you've crapped all over it,
We
and
have.
at times it's been eye-rollingly bad.
Yeah.
But now they're sticking with it. They're coming back around to it. She's committed to it, and the crowds are starting to respond to it. So, I could easily see them flipping the title here. And hey, it wouldn't be past them, and they've done it before. They did it right before when they put the belt on Daniel Bryan going into the match with Brock Lesnar at
Yep.
Survivor Series a couple of years ago, for them to drop the belt, have her drop the belt back to Flair, you know, the week before Survivor Series. But I'm going to stick with my prediction here. I think Flair retains, but I would not be the least bit surprised to see them switch the title again and put it on Bliss.
Yeah, this is not a lock of the night type scenario.
Ooh.
Okay, so I believe we should have one or two matches left.
So now we come to the main event.
Okay.
In an Extreme Rules match, it's been announced as an Extreme Rules match for the Universal Championship. It'll be Roman Reigns defending against Finn Balor as the Demon.
Fuck me, this is a tough one. Well, I mean, I think Reigns is gonna keep it, but damn, Demon Finn Balor, why would they waste it on Extreme Rules? I mean, I hope it's
this one irritates me.
this is bad because, well, and you and I were discussing, this was before SummerSlam, because we thought it was a very big possibility that Finn Balor could have been in a triple threat match with Cena and Reigns. And then you made the comment where it's like, hey, if they bring out Demon Finn Balor, I'm gonna be, I don't know where to go with it, right? But in this scenario, it wouldn't be my lock of the night. What I feel like is gonna happen, since it's an Extreme Rules match, Finn's gonna get in some great offense. It's gonna be a sensational match, but I think Reigns is gonna submit him with a guillotine. That's what I think is gonna happen.
Yeah, so, most of the arguments that I make about them possibly switching it here are really just here and not here,
Yeah.
because I really want to believe that they're not going to just blow through bringing back the Demon just to feed him to Reigns. And the Demon's lost before. He's lost once in NXT
Yeah.
to Samoa Joe, right?
Yep.
So it's not like it's unheard of. But they rush him back into the title picture, and then they rush him right back into the Demon gimmick,
Yep.
which they could have saved. I mean, they could have just had it be straight up, Reigns versus Balor again, and then you can always bring back the Demon later.
Yep.
But they're rushing into this. So when I think about it and I say, okay, well, with what Roman has coming up, so he's got Brock Lesnar coming up. Eventually, hopefully, he gets to The Rock. Does he need the title for those matches? And I say to myself, well, no, because they're marquee level matches.
Yep.
And they covered their ass a little bit by saying that the match at Crown Jewel, if Balor were to win the title, then it would still be Reigns versus Lesnar without a title on the line.
Yeah.
But at this point, what I keep coming back to is that at this point, they've built, and we talked about it with the Honky Tonk Man, they've built him up to a point now where if he loses, it has to mean something, and it has to be to make somebody.
Yeah.
And with the Extreme Rules stipulation, I mean, you could see an argument that, hey, Lesnar comes in, it's legal for him to interfere. He suplexes Reigns a bunch of times, and then Balor beats him for the belt. But that's not the way to end this reign.
No, that's not how
he's
to.
had.
Yeah, because they've had a decent.
And I don't think you remake Balor that way either. So no matter how many arguments I make, what I end up coming back to is that, I think they think that the Extreme Rules gimmick will protect Balor in some way. It's not. He's going to lose. The Demon persona gimmick is going to be damaged after this, so they're not going to make money with it. I think this is foolish. I think it's short-sighted. But at the end of the day, the bloodline and the tribal chief will move on, and he will retain the Universal title, and I will be almost as pissed, or actually no, I'll actually be a little more pissed than I was when they had Jericho submit MJF.
Yeah.
This is really not good.
It's not good. Though I will say it was freaking cool on SmackDown to see Finn Balor come out as the Demon. That's like the
Oh, sure.
coolest freaking entrance ever. So,
It's awesome to see live, by the way.
oh, dude, I would need to see the Demon live. That's so freaking cool. So, I
Because
love how,
I was at SummerSlam in Brooklyn when he won the first Universal title.
damn, dude. Well,
That was fun.
the thing is though, I can see the at least it's good storytelling, right? Because first Finn goes in there and he's like, "Hey, I want." But if you're not interested in his challenge, maybe you're interested in mine. Freaking Reigns gives him a shot, thinking, "All right, you're way easier than Cena." Cena comes in, steals his shot. Now, even though he would love a pay-per-view fight with Reigns, he goes, "Okay, if I don't call you out now, somebody else is gonna jump in." Logically, character wise, story wise, it actually made sense to fight him on SmackDown. It's like, I want a shot at the belt. I better take it now. Now, booking for the future, that's a different story, but at least this is like logical moves from the Balor character. Then it's like, you cheated to beat me. I've been being fucking dicked around. I'm a man pushed too far. When I'm pushed too far, I become a demon. They have that cool hint that the demon's coming back. They bring back the demon. Now he's gonna fight Reigns as the demon. Awesome. But so I love this. But end of the day though, I don't see them giving it the maybe because it's an Extreme Rules match, that's how they give it to Balor, just because, they'll try to protect Reigns, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
No,
if Reigns is gonna drop the championship, he's not gonna do it at Extreme Rules. Maybe Survivor Series. Maybe.
yeah. I just, the construction of the story is fine, like you said. It's just it's being done at the wrong time.
Yeah. Yep.
You take this story and then you shift it post Royal Rumble into WrestleMania season. Gold. I love it.
Yeah.
Because then you can make an argument, if it's going to be Reigns versus the Demon with the proper build at WrestleMania.
Oh,
Now okay.
now
But
my balls are tingly just thinking about that.
yeah,
But we don't get that.
but
We get Extreme Rules.
but but if they come in and they do a finish where Lesnar interferes to give Balor the win, Reigns is reign is diminished.
Yeah.
Balor isn't really made. All they do is switch the belt,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work. Could I see them doing it? Sure, but it just doesn't make sense right now. And like I said, I think the only real outcome of this is that Finn Balor and the Demon character are damaged pretty severely.
Yeah, I could see that. So, we have our Extreme Rules predictions. We got through 8 fantastic matches today in the IC Championship run. I feel fucking great about this stream. How do you feel about it, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. What I'm going to do real quick for those who are watching is I'm going to do a very quick preview. Just run down the next 8 matches.
Ooh, I love that.
Tournament.
Please do.
So the next leg will be Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich.
Okay, that's a good matchup.
Shelton Benjamin versus Cody Rhodes.
Fuck me.
Christian versus Kevin Owens, which would be an interesting match, which we may see in AEW sometime soon.
That's actually closer than people would think. Closer than people would think.
Owen Hart versus the Road Dogg.
More interesting than people would think.
Eddie Guerrero versus Carlito.
I kind of know who wins that one.
Bobby Lashley versus the current Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura.
More interesting than people think at first glance.
This one's going to be interesting. William Regal versus Val Venus.
Oh shit! What's the seating on that one?
28 versus 37.
Yeah, it's gonna be
So
close.
it's close.
Oh, it's close. Yeah, because I love both those guys, so that's why it's gonna have to fucking kill me to choose one. But we got to do it.
And then the one that in a broader wrestling context would be a very interesting discussion to have. I think in the context of the Intercontinental title, it's going to be a very quick discussion.
Yeah.
But number 5, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, taking on number 60, the current Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. Will Roman be acknowledged?
I don't think he will as the IC champion.
Not as the greatest Intercontinental Champion.
But if you want to talk fucking great, all-time greats in terms of wrestling, he's definitely building quite the fucking resume for himself. I'll tell you that much.
Goosebumps right there, man. I'm telling you. Oof.
Ooh. Man.
So good stuff coming up in the next leg of the tournament, and then you previewed, hey, that second round matchup between the Honky Tonk Man and The Rock. That's gonna, oh God, I'm looking forward and not looking forward to that conversation.
Dude, there's some matches where I know it's just gonna be I don't even have to research. I just have to go, okay, next. And there's ones I'm gonna have to fucking go through Wikipedia, watch all the old matches on Peacock, really go through the Wrestling Bros or Wrestling Bios YouTube page, freaking watch their runs and be like, fuck, what do I do? Yeah, but Macho Man, no, not Macho Man, Honky Tonk Man versus Rock, that's going to be way tougher than people think it is. And when we get into that,
for the life of me, I still can't think of how I'm going to go on that one. And that's legit because I can make strong arguments in either direction.
We can. You know what? For the second round, I'm bringing in a third judge. We're going to need it.
Yeah. And we may need some of the Slammer Brothers universe to weigh in on that as well, because I'm going to, Seductive Steel, I'm sure, has an opinion on this one.
Seductive Steel will most certainly have an opinion on this one. And no, you can't pick whose hair you like the most, Seductive Steel, you old sailor. All right, so.
Well, that's because if we were going to talk about who had the best hair, then clearly I got the belt, I got the tank top, I got the hair. I mean, come on.
I don't know, bro. Because the Hawk rocks, I rock the Hawk very well. So, I don't know, man. Anyways.
Hang on. All right, I'm ready. Take us home.
Taking us home right now. All right, folks. We are going to be posting the matchups every day as polls on our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages. So follow us there at the Slammer Bros. Subscribe to us on Twitch at the Slammer Bros. Subscribe to us on YouTube at the Slammer Bros. And then also follow Steve_Slammer at Instagram. And if you are looking to get into shape, you can follow me at Jack_Slammer_fitness or on TikTok at Jack Slammer. Until next time, folks, you enjoy yourself. And remember, the Intercontinental Championship was the most beautiful belt at all times. See y'all later. Bye.